Hello, welcome to Prejim Technologies. I am Venkat. This is part 89 of ASP.NET video series. In part 87 of this video series, we have discussed the basics of Windows authentication, and in part 88, we discussed about how to allow or deny access to specific users, how to do role-based authorization, and finally, we discussed about how to programmatically check if a user belongs to a specific role. In this session, we'll discuss about folder level authorization within Windows authentication. Let's understand that with an example. Look at the Solution Explorer here. Um, Within this Web Application 1 project, I have a folder called admin and it has got an admin page. Now, only administrators should be able to access the pages within admin folder. The rest of the pages that are outside of the admin folder, for example web form 1, can be accessed by anyone. Is this possible to achieve with Windows authentication? Absolutely. Let's see how to do that. Let's flip to Visual Studio. So I have Web Application 1 here. Right click on the project. Let's add a folder with name admin. And then this folder is going to contain a web form. So let's right click on that, add. I'm going to call that new item. And let's add a web form. And let's call that admin page. So admin page. Click add, and then I'm going to use an H1 just to display that this is an admin page, so that should show up nicely, admin page. Alright, now let's add a web.config file to this folder. So right click on the folder, add new item, and then I'm going to add a web configuration file. Okay, so now I'm going to specify some authorization settings for this web.config file that's present in admin folder. So here, what we're going to do, we're going to make use of this authorization element, and here I will say allow roles is equal to administrators. So we are allowing the administrator role and we are denying access to everybody else. So deny users is equal to star. Star indicates all users. So now the settings that we have specified in the web.config file of this folder are applicable to all the pages that is going to be present in this folder. So admin page is present in admin folder. So this page will now be accessible only to administrators. Now what is the other thing that we want to do? The pages that are outside of the admin folder, for example webform1.aspx is outside of the admin folder, and I want that to be available to all the users, to all the authenticated users. So how do I do that? I have another web.config file within the root directory of this web application project. So here I specify the authorization settings. So here I am saying, okay, delete that allow here, and I'm going to say deny users is equal to question mark, meaning deny access only to unauthenticated users, rest others allow access. Okay, now I'm logged in as Prasad into this computer, so let's check which is the group Prasad belongs to. And to check that, click on start button, computer, right click on that and select manage, which should bring up the computer management window, and within that expand local users and groups, and then if you select users you should see Prasad there, and if I double click that, Prasad is a member of administrators and home users group. And if you look at this, the web form 1 should be accessible to everyone, and admin page should be accessible to administrators. Since I am logged in as Prasad who belong to admin group, I should be able to access both of these pages. So let me try to access web form 1 first. So when I press Ctrl F5, I should be authenticated and I should be able to access this web form. So I'm authenticated as Prasad and I'm able to access web form 1. Now let's say if I am able to access the admin page. So let's press Ctrl F5 again. So I'm able to access the admin page as well, okay, because within the web.config file of that admin folder we specified allow roles administrators. Okay, now let's quickly check Venkat. So there are other users as well on this computer. Venkat is a user. Now if you check the member of tab, Venkat is not an administrator. Now let's add Venkat here to administrators group. So type in administrators, check that. So Venkat is also part of administrators group right now. Okay, now instead of allowing all administrators, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say allow user is equal to, on this machine I want to allow only Venkat. So Venkat is an administrator on this computer, so I want to allow only that user access to the admin page. Okay, so now let's close this, save this web.config file. Now remember, I'm logged in as Prasad, so I should now not be able to access that page. So let's go to admin page, let's press Ctrl F5 there. Now when we try to access that, look at that, there is a prompt. Now I have to supply the credentials of Venkat, otherwise I will not be able to access that admin page. So if I cancel that, as you might expect, access denied. But on the other hand, I can access webform1, which is present in the root directory, because webform1 allow access, basically all the pages that are outside of the admin folder. Any user, any authenticated user can access them. How do we know? Because in this web.config file is specified only deny access to unauthenticated users. Okay, so that's the admin folder web.config file. Now, and this is the web.config file in the root directory of the web application project. Now, a very common interview question is it possible to have more than one web.config file? Absolutely. And if they ask you when do you use more than one web.config file, or why do you use, you have a practical example that you can give. Okay, if you want to do folder level authorization with with Windows authentication, then it's definitely helpful to have more than web.config file. Okay, now if you look at this, whatever is the page that you are accessing, once you are authenticated, the application code is actually executed using the application pool's identity. Okay, now instead of using the application pool identity to execute the application code, I want to use the logged in user identity. How do we do that? We discussed about this in the previous sessions as well. We enable impersonation. And how do we enable impersonation? Let's say, for example, when somebody accesses the admin page, I want the code that is related to admin pages to be executed using the logged in user identity. In that case, within the web.config file of the admin folder, we can enable impersonation. So let's enable impersonation. So identity impersonate is equal to true. So now we only enabled impersonation in the web.config file that's present in the admin folder. We haven't done that to the web.config file in the root application, in the root directory of the web application project. So now if I go ahead and run this, so I am on webform1, which is accessible to all users. So I'm logged in as Prasad, so I'm able to access that, and look at that. Within the root directory, within the web.config file of the root directory, we have not enabled impersonation. That's why if you look at this code, application code executed using the application pool identity. Now let's quickly copy the same piece of code from this page to admin page. So admin page, right click, view code. Within the page load event, let's copy that as well. Okay, now let me go ahead and access this page. Now remember, I'm logged in as Prasad, who doesn't belong to, who is not Venkat. So if you remember, within the admin folder, the web.config file, we said allow only access to Venkat, but I'm logged in as Prasad, so obviously I will not be able to access that page unless and until I provide the credentials of Venkat. So I have provided them. I click login. Oops. So Venkat test login. Look at that. The application code is now executed using the logged in user identity, in this case Venkat. Okay, so it's also possible to enable impersonation for a few of the pages and not for the other pages, and we have just seen how to do that. Okay, so If you want to execute the application code using the logged in administrator account, then enable impersonation in the web.config file of the admin folder. With that setting in place, all the pages in the admin folder are now executed using the logged in user account, whereas the pages outside of the folder are executed using the identity of the application pool. And we have just seen that. And it is also possible to impersonate with a specific username and password. Now, if you see here, the way we are impersonating, we just said identity impersonate is equal to true, meaning whoever is the logged in user that's accessing the pages, then that user account is used to execute the application code. But instead of that, is it possible to hard code a specific account? Absolutely. All you have to do is specify the username and password. So username, I'm going to say Prasad, and password, maybe let's use here Venkat. So that's the username and that's the password. Okay, now let's allow all roles, actually all administrators. So I'm going to say allow roles is equal to administrators. Alright, so now I am logged in as Prasad, so I belong to administrators. I should be able to access the admin page. And look at the web.config file here. We are impersonating, but then we are impersonating with a specific account, Venkat's account. So whether I log in as Prasad, or whether I log in as Venkat, or whether I log in as a different administrator, always the application code is going to be executed using this account. Okay, so I'm logged in as Prasad. So if I run this now, I am able to access that page. Look at that, I'm logged in as Prasad, but look at the application code is executed using Venkat's account. Why? Because within the web.config file we have hard coded the impersonating account details. On this slide you can find resources for ASP.NET, C# and SQL Server interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.